Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this lunch webinar. Matt and I have been working here at the Bush School for 20 plus years. And one of the things that we had talked about most recently was just trying to extend our outreach to advisors and faculty to help you guys with that undergraduate advising so that when people come to you and mention career paths that you may not be as familiar, maybe you have some resources and some information you can provide them. So I'm trying to get onto college campuses and do a little bit more outreach with either career offices or with some of you directly with political science or economics. I just got back from trips to Texas Tech and West Texas A&M. I know I've got several more. I'm planning on outreaching to several of you. And then at the end of here, we're also going to talk about our public service weekend, which this year, instead of doing in person, we're going to have online. And it's another way for either you or your students to attend virtually even bigger version of this. This is an hour. That weekend event, which will be half day Friday and Saturday morning, would be an opportunity to hear from faculty, from our alumni and different panels. And that's more like 6 to 8 hours. I can't remember how much I've finally decided on, but there's a lot of information they can gather through that through just participating in what they can. So thank you for joining us. We are covering today advising for public service careers. We're going to start this in two parts. One, Matt Upton will begin about the third slide, and he's going to talk about public service careers and what those look like, the kinds of titles those are, the different organizations that might bring people in, and some of the differentiations between the pay of someone who comes in from undergrad straight into that field versus someone who might come in with a graduate degree and why it may make sense for them to do that. And then I'll come in on the second part and talk about preparing for graduate school and what we're looking for and some things that you can advise students to make sure that they get on their resume and develop some skills. So again, we're going to take questions. Usually at the end, it's a little easier at the end, but feel free to drop those in the chats and I can help monitor that with Matt and kind of keep an eye on it. So the presenters today, Matt Upton is Assistant Dean of Career and Student Services. We both have our cameras on so you can see us. My name is Catherine Meyer. I work with the Graduate Admissions and Recruitment. So as I mentioned, our goal here is just to equip the undergraduate advisors and the faculty with both information and some resources. And some of those resources I will actually email to you all when I get the webinar transcripted and sent to you for those that couldn't make it, or if you just want to be able to reference it again later. These are basically resources that help public service careers. So if you've got students that come in, you've got some resources to provide them. We are a school of public service at Texas A&M University here in College Station. We're educating and helping students find their passions. We have two primary flagship programs. One's public service and administration. So we cover public admin, public policy, government, nonprofit careers. And then there's a Master of International Affairs that covers national security, diplomacy, intel, development, economics, all kinds of variety of consulting jobs and so forth. But keep in mind, public servants come from all kinds of backgrounds. While we do tend to get a lot of social services and humanities, people who might have language background, not everybody comes from that. Usually they're showing some early signs of involvement, maybe even leadership positions within organizations on their campus. And they may switch tactics once they get that degree and go, you know what, I thought I wanted to do this career, but I'm going to switch modes and go a different way. And they may not know how to narrow their interest or am I qualified for grad school? So we hope we are going to give you some information to help you help your students. So to say that, I'm going to kick it off. Here's that agenda. So part one, Matt's going to talk common public service careers, the grad school advantage, cost benefit analysis, and how they can get career support. I'm going to talk about preparing for grad school, preparing for the admissions process, overview of some scholarships and costs and how that works. And then we'll take questions from you at the end. All right, so Matt, you are up.
Thanks so much, Catherine. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Great to see people all the way from the panhandle of Texas to South Texas on here. We really appreciate all of you taking time out of your schedule. We want to just give you some information that you can share with your students. Catherine did a great segue into what we're going to talk about. I've been in career services for 23 years now. I started at our Career Center on main campus here at A&M and then moved out here to do career services at the Bush School 21 years ago this month, and then have moved into my role. So I want to just share some information about what careers might look like in the public sector. So a lot of people don't know that you can really do just about anything you want in the public sector. As you can see here, you could be someone who studies communications and public relations, education, security and intelligence, human rights and law, government service. They even hire the federal government and state government even hires doctors and nurses and all of those types of things. We don't see a lot of our students come from medical and nursing backgrounds, but you get the idea that we're trying to make here is that really no matter what they study in their undergrad or what they're interested in, they can make that into a public sector career. So what do we mean by the public sector? We really are talking about federal government work, state government work, local government work, cities, counties, regions, and then nonprofit organizations. Now, those nonprofit organizations, if you've ever heard the phrase NGO, and you've wondered, well, what's the difference between an NGO and a nonprofit? Well, remember that in the United States, nonprofit is just a tax status, right? We typically think 501c3, that's that nonprofit status. But in an international context, if you're not familiar with that, then an NGO is just a non-governmental organization, meaning they provide some type of service to their community or their country, but they are not based from the government. So they're doing that in another way. So nonprofits and NGOs we use interchangeably. There are also jobs, as you are probably all aware, the government does use government contracting quite extensively. So some of our graduates go on to work for government contractors doing the same kind of work they would do in the government or in a nonprofit area, but they're doing it for a contractor. Consulting firms, even the big consulting firms that we think about, Accenture, Deloitte, PricewaterhouseCoopers, those types of places, they do consulting in the public sector as well. We do have some students who go in private industry in a variety of different places. And then there are obviously other fields that they can go into when they finish their graduate degree here. To give you an example of some of the types of employers we're talking about, at the federal level, remember that we have, if you're not aware, we have our two programs, our Master of International Affairs and Master of Public Service and Administration. Master of International Affairs, they can either concentrate on national security and diplomacy or international development and economic policy. So because we have those students that are looking at intelligence and national security and diplomacy, you're going to see a lot of the students in the International Affairs program who end up in DC initially. Typically between 50 and 75% of each graduating class is working in intelligence, national security, diplomacy of some type within the federal government or a federal government contractor. So that's why you see agencies like the CIA and the FBI, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Naval Criminal Investigative Service, Defense Intelligence Agency, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of State. You'll see all of those things. But you will also see some other agencies that aren't specific to national security, diplomacy, or intelligence, like USAID, U.S. Agency for International Development, U.S. Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Education, EPA, U.S. Government Accountability Office. We've got graduates who are working in the Dallas area for GAO and also in the Washington, D.C. area. And so you'll see those things within the federal government. Within state and local government, we have students who are working for different departments within states. So yes, we have a lot who stay here in Texas, but we have some who go outside of this great state of Texas. They come back. Just in case you wondered about that, they often come back to the state of Texas after being gone for a while. But you can see here we've had graduates go to work for the state of Maryland, the state of Nebraska, New York State. We've had people who've gone to Washington State and Oregon and work in those different places. But even in the state of Texas, you see Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Education Agency, Texas Health and Human Services. We do have a number of students who work for the Texas legislature, either for a representative or a senator. We've had several who've worked in the governor's office throughout the years under different governors. And then you see we've had people who've gone to places like Wyoming as well. At the local level, we also have students working in a variety of cities. And you can just see a sampling of some of them listed here, but also county government is another place that we find our students going as well. So, okay, nonprofit organizations. Now, in case you aren't aware, there are gazillions of nonprofit organizations. So we just try to list ones that are really familiar to most people. We have some that are going to not be familiar to you, but you can see here we've got many that are based here in the United States, but we've also got some that do international work like Samaritan's Purse or the United Nations World Food Program. Those are examples of NGOs or organizations that function in international contexts. You'll also see big names like the American Cancer Society, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Habitat for Humanity, different food banks. We've had a number of students who've gone to work for food banks in Austin, in Houston, here locally in the Brazos Valley. And then you'll see other organizations that are associations for different types of businesses, like the National Association of Latino Community Asset Builders. We've got a former student who works for the Houston Home Builders Association down in Houston now. She started her career working as a chief of staff for a state representative from her community down in the Houston area. You'll also see places like St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which are going to be very familiar to you. And then government contractors, just to give you an idea, I mentioned a couple of these earlier, Accenture, um, Booz Allen Hamilton, Deloitte Consulting, Ernst & Young. We also have organizations like Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a government contractor. Excuse me. Harmonix is also a government contractor. They do a lot of contract work with USAID, so international development work, but they're a government contractor. And then we also have students who go to work for places like MD Anderson Cancer Center and are really helping people in a lot of different ways. So you see quite a variety in the types of employers that our graduates go to work for. And these are all examples of public service careers. We recognize for you as an advisor, sometimes students come in and they may not know the types of organizations, but they know the kind of work they want to do. They have an idea of what they want to be involved in, what's important to them. And so this slide here is just to give you a little bit of an idea of some of the job titles that students with a graduate degree in either public or international affairs might find. We're going to help them with the marketable skills in grad school, much like they're learning marketable skills right now in their undergraduate education with all of you. But we have students that take jobs as analysts. They could be analyzing everything from budgets to intelligence information that's coming in, from risk and compliance information to security information. So you see a wide range of analytical work that they do. Coordinator, they could be coordinating communications, marketing, and communications. They could also be coordinating emergency management or government affairs. They could be working in nonprofit organizations, running after-school programs, or working in the community, doing community development or economic development, community relations. Consultant, they could take those jobs on in government, business, in policy, strategy, anti-money laundering. We don't teach them how to do money laundering in grad school. We do anti-money laundering. We probably ought to update that slide. I just noticed that as I read that. But we also have graduates who take jobs as developers or directors of policy protocols. We have people who do fundraising. Investigators for both criminal cases, but also social equity work in different organizations, managers of nonprofit organizations, chiefs of staff in legislative offices, manager, city manager, or assistant city manager, or assistant to the city manager in local government, researchers in any number of places, in universities, in think tanks, in organizations. And then you can see, that's great. It's wonderful when you can make real life changes in the middle of the presentation. And then you'll also see some other titles: auditor, specialist, planners, assistant, police, and so many more. But that just gives you an idea of the types of opportunities that are available in the public sector. So why should you get a graduate degree? If a student comes in, look, we realize I've got kids, I've got a 20-year-old, I've got a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. So I'm definitely in the throes of looking at the cost of university life and grad school. Catherine's got two daughters who've graduated from universities, and so she's been through that as well. We recognize that students are making tough choices right now about, is it really worth it to go to graduate school? So we want to give you a little bit of insight into that, why we think it can be valuable. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you, if a student doesn't come directly to graduate school, is that a hindrance to their career? No, but can it help? Sure, it can help. And so we want to just share that information for you so that as you interact with students, you can discern when to share this and when not. It builds upon your undergraduate education. And then, as I've alluded to before, it doesn't matter what their undergraduate education was in. We do have in our international affairs program, we do require students in that international affairs program to pass an oral language exam. So they do have to be able to do that, but that is a skill. That's not necessarily something that has to be related to their undergraduate degree. Um, Grad school also helps them really develop some specific knowledge, skills, and abilities. Things like grant writing, quantitative skills, analysis, budget analysis. How do you put together a budget? How do you manage a budget? How do you analyze if you're spending your budget accordingly? And we're talking about this for organizations, not just on a personal basis there. We also want to make sure that they understand what it's like to go into a agency, a federal agency, or a state agency or local government, and be able to brief people and take a lot of information and condense it down. So we also teach professional skills, things like writing. We have the word here, bluff, which means bottom line up front. So we teach our students how to put the bottom line up front in their writing and be concise in what they share with other people, because that's important. We do provide leadership development. We provide both strengths training, strengths assessment, and then we also have our Myers-Briggs type indicator personality assessment that we offer to students. And then we offer workshops on how that information helps inform what they might do in the future, and also helps give them insight into how they might go about doing that work more successfully. They're going to conduct research in graduate school. They're going to refine those skills. If they have already begun developing those, great. They're going to continue doing that. And if they feel like that's an area they need to improve on, they're going to have the opportunity to do that in graduate school. They're going to work in groups, much like we all work with other people. I have to work with Catherine and her team on a regular basis. She has to work with me. Those are all things that we know are the realities of the working world. And so we try to make sure that we offer that in graduate school as well. We have a number of speakers and conferences that come through here that give our students the opportunity to meet people from the fields that they're interested in and continue their learning. We're going to talk to them about how they present themselves, how they secure an internship in the areas that they're interested in. They are also going to do a client-based consulting project for their graduate, the equivalent of their graduate thesis. And so they're going to work for a real client. They're not going to just do this for a faculty member. They're going to work for the local Habitat for Humanity branch, or they're going to work for the Department of State, or they're going to work for a state agency in Austin, and they're going to work with those individuals to help them solve a problem or do something, analyze something that's been going on within that organization and make improvements down the line. We also have some specific student organizations that are specific to our graduate students. So students can continue being involved, but they're going to be involved in some things that are a little more tailored towards public and international affairs. And then finally, they're going to have the opportunity to continue traveling internationally or travel internationally for the first time on study abroad trips, and then also continue to enhance their language training. We also strongly encourage and have a number of student chapters of professional organizations. For example, we have a student chapter of the International City Management Association, ICMA. and they're actively involved in both ICMA and the Texas City Management Association. So students who want to go into work in local government, it's a great way for them to meet professionals and attend a conference. They have a conference during the summer throughout the state of Texas. They're able to go to that. We also have a chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals for those students who want to work in the nonprofit sector and want to learn how to do fundraising. They're going to get the opportunity to be a part of that and attend a conference. We do have connections with intelligence organizations and bring those individuals in or those organizations in to make presentations to our students, and the list goes on. One of the things that Texas A&M prides itself on is the Aggie Network. Many of you are probably familiar with that. Some of you may not be. When a student comes from another undergraduate institution and they meet with me, I really encourage them to think of their network in concentric circles. So kind of like a target, right? And so I encourage them to think about their close network, and that close network could be the people that they're in graduate school with, but it could also be people from their undergraduate institution, or it could be from a previous internship. And so we encourage students to utilize every network that's available to them. So their network from their undergraduate institution, they are automatically going to be a part of the Aggie network when they come here as a student. And so we encourage them to jump into that. And then we have a really tight knit alumni group as well that comes out of the Bush School. So people who have gone to our graduate programs and are continuing in their careers, and they want to reach back out and help with the current students. And so we encourage our students to engage their professional network, and we teach them how to do that as well. So one of the things that people obviously want to know again is it really worth it to go to graduate school? And so we want to give you some tangible information. So obviously we believe there's return on investment. We know that a lot of our students that come to the Bush School, they really come in with the mindset of finding their way in their career. They don't want to just find that first job out of school that they don't know if they really want to do. They know that they want to serve other people in some capacity. And we've already talked about how broad that could be. And so we really try to help our students begin thinking about their career and not just a job when they get out of here. Salaries do vary by field and by location. No surprise there. Obviously, someone in my time, 21 years here, I had a student who went to work making $35,000 a year, but she was located in rural Texas for a small nonprofit organization, and she knew that that's what she was going into. Most of our graduates, when they finish here, they can go in. Our average salary is likely, I only have anecdotal information, but is around the 55 to $65,000 range. And that's the broad range, right? So that's someone working in a small nonprofit all the way to someone working for the federal government. But a better picture of that really comes, the federal government does a really good job of providing their salary information. So we like to show this because I think this does the best job with some tangible information to show a student why it might be worth going to graduate school. If a student goes to work for the federal government coming directly out of their undergraduate degree, they are going to likely be hired at what's called the GS7 Step 1 level. So that's the grade 7 Step 1. And that salary, if they go to Washington, D.C., is $55,924. If they take 2 years to go to graduate school and they finish a master's degree and they go to work for an agency in Washington, D.C., that same agency, they would be hired at what's called the GS9 or the grade 9 step 1 level, which is $68,405. So almost $13,000, just a little less than $13,000 higher salary for that. So as you can see here, there is a benefit in their salary to have that master's degree, and that's just a tangible example. So if you look at that and then go, oh, that's $12,500 extra over the life of their career, then obviously that adds up. And yes, we do have students who go to work in the public sector. A lot of information out there that says, oh, you can't get a good job that pays a good salary if you work in the public sector. I don't agree with that. We have a number of our students who go to work in that $75,000 to $100,000 pay range. And if they aren't there right away, they are getting there pretty quickly, because the other thing we see is that people in the public sector are retiring pretty rapidly these days. And so we find that our graduate students get promoted pretty quickly, so their salaries match with that. The things that I would encourage you to share with your students is that if they are interested in knowing whether or not the public sector opportunities are something they want to do, encourage them to visit your on-campus career services office. Most career centers on campuses offer career advising, career assessments. And so if they're still trying to kind of figure out what it is they want to do, that might be a good place to start. If they have a better idea of what they want to do, encourage them to start working on their cover letter and their interviewing skills and their resumes, and talk to people in that network at your university who are doing the kind of work that they're interested in. I also encourage them, go to a graduate fair, go to a career fair, and talk to employers and ask them, what are you looking for when you're looking for someone? How important is a graduate degree to you? We also encourage our students, if they aren't sure what they want to do, they don't know if they want to make the investment, they don't know if graduate school is for them, but they want to explore this idea of getting some public sector experience, we encourage them, consider programs like AmeriCorps, consider Peace Corps or Teach for America or City Year. Those are all great ways for them to be able to get experience and determine if that's something that they want to do in the future. And then if they're ready for graduate school, we encourage you, go to those career workshops that are at your university for employers who are looking for public sector careers. Check with your employer relations offices and find out. And then also know that we're happy to talk to them if they have questions. I'm always happy to talk to prospective students about careers in the public sector to determine if that's something that they want to pursue in the future. So that gives you just a quick overview. I think that's my last slide, Catherine, if I remember correctly. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Catherine so she can talk to you about the grad process.
Thank you, Matt. And I want to encourage, if you do have some questions for Matt while I'm talking about the grad school experience, go ahead and drop those in the chat and he can monitor those. And then, of course, if it's helpful to kind of tell the answer out at the end, we can do that. I may move a little bit quicker because I think a lot of what I'm going to do may already be familiar with you. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on some of these slides, but I want to do at least an overview of making this grad school decision, right? One of the first things that students have to do is determine what kind of grad degree they want. And I know at the fairs that I was at this past week, they were talking about law school and, what's the advantage of a law school versus this? And so we had that discussion. So they really have to narrow down those kinds of what kind of program, what's it look like? What do I want to learn from it? What is my future career going to look like? And discuss those pros and cons, and then find out if they're qualified. I talked to some students who are lower GPAs. So I'm asking them, what else do you bring to the table? Because faculty, they're not opposed to bringing someone with a high 2 GPA, but you have to make up for something with leadership or an internship or having worked for a few years or something unique that brings to the table. And then again, when they decide on those schools, it's living arrangements. Where are you going to be? What part of the nation do you want to be? You want to stay in Texas, go elsewhere? Can you afford it? There's some great programs out there, but a lot of them are very expensive. And so it is important to talk about what kind of finances you can get from them to help support you, and consider already what kind of debt do you have from your undergrad. And so that you don't end up getting so much that you're just paying on these for 20, 30 years, which is crazy, which is why public service loan forgiveness is another option we can talk about later. And then what comes after? What kind of professional fit? What kind of career paths? Which is why I love Matt being able to cover what did the career paths look like here. But keep in mind, it's not just the Bush School. We are talking about public service programs across the nation. There are a lot of these programs that exist, and so the student needs to make the right fit for them. So this is one of the sheets that I will eventually send you. I'm going to clean it up, make sure all the links still work. But these are researching your options, and this is for you to give to students. It's utilizing the different professional organizations that we're familiar with because we work with them quite often. And these are definitely for the public service careers. So if someone's looking at public administration, policy, staying within the local government, state government, they may want to look at programs like NASPA.org because they do have what is an MPA versus an MPP. What do those look like for public policy versus public administration? You can go to apam.org, aspa.net.org. The PPIA program is a great one. If you're not familiar with and you work with freshmen and sophomores, you can get them into looking at the PPI program because they're promoting not only the public administration fields, again, for government service largely, but also for international affairs. And they offer what are called junior summer institutes, where they'll pay to give them about a month to 6 weeks worth of training in quant methods and giving them more awareness of the kinds of programs that exist out there. And so those are highly coveted, and that's done through the PPIA program. So definitely write that one down if you haven't heard of it and go to their website. It's a wonderful organization. International affairs, the big one for me is apsia.org, but there are a number of others that they can do research on. Nonprofit resources, another good listing, state, local government, federal government, national security, diplomacy sites, international economics and development sites. And again, these are ones that you just encourage them to do some research. They can find a lot of information about the kinds of careers, the kind of pathways, the skills those career pathways want. Giving them some homework, I guess, is a good idea. And then when they get down to the point of, hey, I really think grad school makes sense for me. I really want to get those skills and make those networks to help me land the kind of job I want. This is kind of generic, right? Searching online sites. You go to Google and you start plugging in by keywords, right? That's how a lot of us just go, what are the top graduate programs in public affairs or in Texas? And then seeing what the rankings throw at you and what the paid advertising and what the organic search pulls up. But you can also look at online sites, right? So there are programs out there that have gradschools.com. Some schools pay to be part of it. Other ones are just listed, it's free. And you go on there and you search very specifically, like I'm looking for a grad program in local government or homeland security in the state of Texas, and it'll pull up schools. And that's a great way to figure out what's available out there to start narrowing and start researching those schools and finding a little bit more about it. So I've listed a number of them up here. I still included apsia.org and naspa.org because both of them have search functions where you can look at the schools who are either part of those organizations or through a search function. You just have to find the student section on those in order to find that search function. And then the next steps is when they've now gone, all right, I'm aware of some schools that intrigue me. I like what they have to say. Find out if it's an on-campus program or an online program. What do they want for those? Are they endorsed or accredited? Does that matter to them? Do they want to stay in Texas? Do they want to go elsewhere? Do the rankings matter? And sometimes it's not a matter of being the top 10, it's a matter of being in the top 50 or 60. Because it really is hard to differentiate solid programs when you start getting into the weeds. Some of those rankings are purely done by institutional reputation, not necessarily by the programs or the schools that are housed there. And also important is that emphasis. No one needs to come here doing an area that we don't focus on, right? So we're trying to make sure that we are getting good fit with our students, and so are the other schools. Then you need to go to your faculty, the advisors, ask them, professionals in that field, what do you think about this school? Do you know anything about this school? Get some insight from that. And then from there, they're going to prioritize those top schools and then start researching the information on them and definitely checking that affordability. Now, some of the private schools will tell you for sure to go ahead and apply because they do have some generous scholarships and they can help with that. Just keep in mind when you're comparing offers, what it means to get a $20,000 offer from a public school versus a $20,000 offer from a private school, because they can be quite different because our costs are widely different. And then when preparing for this process, I work in the admissions office here at the Bush School. What are we looking for? There's a lot of different factors, but one of them is aptitude for the field. And that part of that is about your background and what kind of major you had and what you've been doing and what your leadership skills are and the classes you did for quantitative methods or statistics. Because programs sometimes lean heavily into statistics, others don't. And you don't want to get someone who avoids and goes, nope, I don't want to do econ, I don't want to do math. We may not be the best program for that, but there are other programs that aren't as math heavy. So it's finding out that aptitude and being able to succeed in those kinds of programs, which is that past academic success as well. It's also a sense of direction. You don't want to just say, hey, I really enjoy helping people. That can mean so many different things. But knowing maybe I want to work with a nonprofit. I may not have 100% sure, but I think that's the direction. And I'm going to at least write about that in my personal statement to make sense. And I may shift that career path once I'm here and talk to more people, and that's okay. But just to go, I think, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I can't find a job. I'm just going to go to grad school. That's not going to sell it to faculty. They want to enjoy having students who are clearly interested in their field. And so having a sense of direction is important. So is that maturity and that initiative. You want students in there who will do the homework and who aren't going to slough off and be bringing down those group work. So they are going to make sure that you're ready for that grad school environment. And it is that ability to work with others. You will do a lot of group work. That's the nature of this career path. And then support by recommenders. Now, we have gone down from 3 recommenders to 2. We just removed one additional hurdle. We were having a number of people who were struggling to find that third person. So we're just going to make it 2. So both our MPSA and MIA have now gone down. And then leadership and involvement. It's important that someone is well-rounded past just the academics, that they have been involved in organizations, that they have volunteered, that they are giving back through SGA, have done an internship, just doing something past the academic classroom setting. So here comes these competitive steps. So while in undergrad, they should be showing the ability to exceed in the classroom. They need to work on keeping a solid GPA. Now, our averages run at about a 3.5. It varies just, by tenths of a point, but I can get somebody in who's a 3.2 if they have well-rounded. It's those that come in that are really low GPAs that are a little harder to be confident because it's just going to be one-on-one at that point of what you can do to offset that. So have them really dig in for their GPAs, keeping classes that are relevant to what they think they want to do helps. Nurture those relevant experiences like internships, try something out, see if they liked it, didn't like it, having part-time jobs, maybe working on campus, taking part in a study abroad if they can afford it, working on that language ability and knowing at least one language well, and then developing any specialties. So if someone really thinks they want to do things like Homeland Security, are they getting involved in organizations? Are they taking classes that are involved with that? Just to, again, to develop what direction they want to take with it. I have a number of people who do Homeland Security and then find out cyber. Or, hey, my pathway, they were always asking me in the office to help with some of the cyber information that was coming out, and I got to know it more and more. And now that's what I really think I'm excelling at. And then lean into those organizations, the volunteerism, the leadership, and then inventory what they're passionate about and what they like doing or don't like doing so that they can find the pathway that fits them. And then students must showcase their abilities and skills. So I put some keywords here. Obviously, they don't need to throw all of these onto a resume. Your career services and Matt Upton will be the first to tell you they've got to make sense of talking through how you use these, but talking about collaboration and time management, ability to write well, adaptability. All those are key things to work not only into your resume, but into that personal statement and showcasing what you can do. As far as a timeline goes, keep in mind, grad schools, we work about a year out. And so if someone comes to me getting ready to graduate in May and they say in March, hey, I think I may want to go to grad school, they're probably too late to start that fall because we would have already made admissions decisions by March. Now, sometimes we extend our deadlines, as do a number of other schools, and sometimes you can be lucky and catch that tail end of it. But by and large, they need to be working a fall semester ahead. So in the summer of their junior year, if they're wanting to go straight out from undergrad, they need to be doing some of this research that we just talked about and talking to others. And then narrowing that list, developing a spreadsheet, right, that compares things. Identify their recommenders, talk to them, provide them a resume, let them know what your goals are. If you need to do the GRE or get your transcripts in order, make sure that you're getting those lined up. Now, as for us, GRE is optional. Some schools still are. Others are slowly starting to implement them or had already done that right after COVID. And then to evaluate your financial needs and what you can afford for a program. And in that fall, before your year, you start beginning your applications, writing your essays, submitting your apps, submitting FAFSA so that you can afford it if you need those loans. In the winter, just make sure everything's in process and moving forward. We add an additional step of interviews because our faculty like to talk to the students before they get them in their classrooms and decide who to admit and not admit. So that takes place in the winter. And in the spring, almost all of us are making those final visits with you guys and talking to you, having you talk to our current students. You start comparing those offers and the funding and then making those final decisions and finding housing. And then the summer really is just wrapping it all up and getting your mind ready for grad school because it comes fast, as you all know. Here are some of the general application requirements of a lot of schools. So almost all of us are going to require that university application and an application fee. Now, some schools will waive application fees if you attend certain events. So encourage the students to ask about those or to look them up. I know I am asked regularly and we don't give them out as generously as other schools because I have to pay A&M for them. And so I don't have the ability to just waive them. I have to pay for them. And that gets very expensive. So some schools do it really well. We personally don't, but we do have some organizations like with Peace Corps and AmeriCorps that we can waive those app fees for those groups. Professional resume, they need to be working on those, building them by those sophomore, junior years so they can keep just adding stuff to them or recognizing what they're missing. Those personal statements, the statement of purpose, the additional essays, the recommendations, like I said, it's usually 2 to 3. Getting those official transcripts lined up. Now, when they apply, they may only need unofficial, and that's fine. Tests, they may be optional. They just need to look that up. GRE is the big one, graduate record exam at the grad level. And then international applicants, which we do have a lot of students come in and try to apply for that. They just have to make sure that they've either graduated from the US with their degree to waive that. There's a couple of other options, or they need to take an English language proficiency test. They can also use their GRE verbal scores to offset that. And then there's possible interviews for those schools. So those admissions decisions, like I mentioned earlier, December through March, sometime they're making those decisions for most schools. The aid usually comes out somewhere between February and April. So even though they're admitted, they may not know if they can afford it until a little bit later when all that financial aid comes up. And then students usually respond to most of our schools with a decision by April 15th. Now, as far as scholarships and costs and what they can expect, just keeping in mind, we realize this is a huge investment of time and money. And then they can run anywhere between $10,000 to $60,000 per year. Public versus private makes a big difference. This doesn't include sometimes the fees, the housing, the books, the food, the relocation, the travel, incidentals. So when we give a number, that's just for tuition and fees by and large. And then you've got to look for a separate tag of what it costs for living costs. I will say right now, our cost is $13,600 per year. So we're on the low end of this. There's a number of programs here in Texas that are even under that. And then of course, there's a lot of private schools that are closer to that 40 to 60,000 per year. Now, graduate aid, keep in mind, if you don't work with this very closely, it's packaged differently than undergrad aid. So not everyone's going to get Pell Grants and those kinds of things. They don't exist at the graduate level. But if you submit FAFSA, students may qualify for more than they would have for undergrad because now you're declared independent. So you don't have to report your family income. And a lot of our students are fresh out. They don't have any money to talk about. So they're qualifying for loans to help pay for that. Now, whether or not they want to take it out is up to them, but at least they have a resource should they need it. And so you are tagged for higher financial need if that, is necessary. Now, at the funding of the program level, many are merit-based. So we have merit-based scholarships that we offer to our students, and that is awarded through our departments. So each department will have their own set of money that they can then decide which students get what kind of funding. The academics do matter. It's GPA. They're considering the kind of college you attended, what you did. Somebody who studied music is going to have a different GPA than someone who studied nuclear engineering or electrical engineering. Just a different viewpoint on how that GPA might look. So there's some forgiveness for some majors as opposed to others. Writing skills, really showcase those. And then the non-academics matter too. We talked about that earlier, the getting involved. Being balanced is helpful when we're looking again at that funding amount and who we want in our classroom. That order of financing, this is all a review. It's free money first. Students should be looking at scholarships and fellowships, the grants that might be able to get, or any type of waivers, like a non-resident tuition waiver. Some schools offer those for if you want to go out of state. I know we do that here at the Bush School. Anyone who's from out of state that we provide funding for will receive that non-resident waiver. That's a savings of about $13,000 for those non-residents. So students should be looking for that if that's an option for them. Second tier of this is earned money. It's work study, graduate assistant positions. I am asked all the time about work positions. We don't provide them to first-year students, but a lot of schools do. That's how they get TAs and GAs to help. So look for appointments for teaching, research, non-teaching, campus jobs. Most require students to work 20 hours a week, so they just need to make sure they can balance that. And they may be eligible for insurance benefits. That third level was those borrowed money, like federal student loans. They need to pay attention to the kinds of loans they're getting, make sure they're affordable, and then they should check out public service loan forgiveness. A lot of that through what the Biden administration was really put back into play, making it much easier for people to qualify for and get forgiveness after that 10 to 20 years of repaying. And then, of course, there's private loans as a backup. I just included, again, this will be one that I will send to you, but it's just some resources for loans. Definitely the FAFSA students should be applying for those anytime between even now and June 30th of 2025 for people who are looking for fall of 2025. And there's some great information on the federal U.S. Student aid. The APSIA website has 142 different scholarships that students who are interested in international affairs or other related fields could find and apply for. And then there's even some general funding apps and sites. Now, I'm not endorsing any of these. I'm not as familiar with them. I don't believe any of them have any type of huge fee. There might be a nominal fee. You would never want to pay huge fees to get access to these because a lot of them are just available on the websites. But I know I had a grad student who did myscholarly.com and had found a significant scholarship through there. So these were just some that I had heard endorsed from some students or just through general research. All right, so that's my part on this grad service, but I did want to make an announcement. I mentioned this at the very beginning that the Bush School holds a public service weekend each year. This is our 13th annual event, but we are doing it virtually this year because in making it virtual, we can have more people attend. Usually we have to have people apply for it, and we pick about 30 to 35 students to bring to campus. And that limits, and we have to tell people no. So here, anyone who's interested and wants to learn more can attend what they are interested in. So this is going to be held on October the 11th and 12th. That's half a day Friday towards the end of the day. We're going to run it from 2:30 to 6:30. And then Saturday morning, we're going to run it again from 9:30 to 12:30. We know not everybody's going to be able to attend all sections of it, but we will publish what's being presented when, and people can log in and maybe sit in on the alumni panel for international affairs if they want to learn more about what some of our students have done with their career paths. So they're going to be career information, leadership information, faculty-led discussions, one domestic, one international, some panels, some alumni interactions, hopefully doing a little bit of online networking with each other. And so if that is of interest to your students, I will be sending out an email next week to all of you, highlighting and asking if you would send it to your majors or the school newsletter or however you can publish it. And again, anyone can sign up for this if that's of interest. Now, in the past, we've had some requirements for this of a 3.0 or better, but obviously it can be anybody because we're not now trimming that down to 30 students. But those who show an interest in public service or want to learn more about it, this is a great for them. And those of you who want to hear from students more than just Matt and myself, you may want to attend parts of this as well. So feel free to sign up as an advisor. You just need to get your application in by October the 6th, which is that Sunday leading into that weekend event. Now, as far as the Bush School goes, just to do a quick highlight of our programs, our MPSA and MIA, that Public Service Administration, International Affairs, I do want to mention we provide funding to everybody that we admit. So we start with our full range scholarships that are about 20,000, go all the way down to 1,000. Some students may earn a couple of fellowships here that we make nominations across Texas A&M, and those are pretty much full rides. And so if they are interested in having an affordable program, we are one that might be of interest to them. Our yearly in-state tuition rates are about $13,600 per year. And as I mentioned, we do have non-resident waivers for those that are not from Texas, should you have some students that come to you. And then as far as with Matt in the career office, we have 3 staff members, including Matt, who are working with our students one-on-one, doing advising and training and coaching and providing them leads for different job sectors that they can follow up if they're interested. So we are working hard with our students, and these are the types of degrees we have. Now, the ones in yellow are the ones that I work with specifically in talking about those scholarships. There is a Master of National Security and Intelligence in Washington, D.C. They are funded differently. Their cost is by class, so it's $3,900 per course that you take. And they are more of an evening class for those that are working in Washington, D.C. The executive MPSA are for online program for those that have been out for a few years. And then A&M does have a PhD with political science for those that are looking for that. But you would have to work with the political science department because I have no idea what their funding looks like or how much they cost. But I do know they have GA positions and TA positions. And then we have a number of certificates that people can do online or through in residence here in College Station. And that's International Affairs, Homeland Security, nonprofits, and public management. And in fact, if some of you are interested in getting a certificate because you're interested in something like this, you could definitely sign up for those. Okay, so now at this time, I'm going to stop the recording so that when we discuss any questions, if anyone wants to unmute and ask the questions, and then we'll also provide anything through the chat section if we haven't already. So if you have heard what you enough and you've got to get running, it's 12:52. I appreciate your time. Thank you guys so much for being here with us and letting Matt and I talk. And here is my email, Bushkill Admissions, and Matt Upton. You got Mupton. I love this email. If you got some career questions that he might be able to help you with. And like I said, once we get this transcribed, I'll be emailing this to you along with some resources. And those who filled out who wanted a free gift from us, I'm going to figure out what I've got in my office to send you, but I've got some cool things that I can mail to you soon. So, all right, with that, I'm going to stop my recording and then we'll start taking some questions.